Hello and welcome to episode 4 of ZFK Talks. The crypto matrix is the subject we'll be covering today. This is a video that I'm extremely excited to cover, as it's something that I think that a lot of people aren't even aware of, especially with our economic system being the way it is, with the virus epidemic that we have now, throwing such a brick into it. I think it's really important that we all become aware of this subject and the value that it offers. I've been planning on doing this video for months. I wanted to make this an installment of ZFK Vlogs with proper lighting, camera, audio, but I've sat on it for too long and the day has come. And today, May 11th, 2020, is the Bitcoin halving. I'm going to explain why that's so important. And I brought my thinking glasses and a script today. And I think that there's no chance in hell I would have even been able to remember a quarter of what I want to present to you today. So bear with me. It's going to be reading from a script. I spent about 4 hours today putting together a 10-page document, and I think it pretty well covers everything I want to go over. All right, guys, so like I said, the subject that I'm about to break into your awareness is far too much for me to bring to you in the best of my ability off the cuff. This is a space that I'm super passionate about, and I would like to commemorate a very special event taking place today in the crypto community. You've probably heard of Bitcoin before, the world's prominent digital currency, also known as digital gold. You might have first heard of it in 2017 during the historically large, massive bull run causing price increases of over 100,000%, making many people investing small sums of money incredibly wealthy. So you do understand that this is some sort of stock or money to invest into and flip a quick profit. You might be right. Or should it be used as a long-term investment? Neither answer is right or wrong. Today, like I said, May 11th, 2020, is the third ever Bitcoin halving. I know I probably just spoke Greek for the last 2 minutes, but my hope is that by the end of this video, you will have a better understanding and literacy of what Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are and what they mean for the future. If it weren't for the virus situation we have on our hands today, I would likely be throwing a Bitcoin halving party. Likely only for one, because I know hardly anyone else that would be willing to come to a halving party that I'm throwing. This event only happens twice in a decade, so I'm very glad to be a part of it. And why am I so excited about this halving event, you may ask? It's because historically, the Bitcoin halving is always a catalyst for a new 4-year crypto cycle, which will bring great price appreciation. Before explaining anything else about Bitcoin, allow me to show you this chart that I'm going to put on screen right now. Okay, so now we got the chart there. Blue represents the actual price of Bitcoin since conception. You can see it's jaggedy, and it appears to be going up, which is a good thing. Green is a predicted price from the past and the future going forward. And then lastly, you can also see the red line, which is kind of like a line of gravity, let's say, through the cycle. You can see that the price kind of swings under and over it, but always never strays too far away. The most important thing on this chart that you will see is a number of vertical black lines. Those are the historical Bitcoin halvings. We're on the third line today. And what you can see usually typically before that black line is there's a little bit of a dump in the price before or after. But from there, 12 to 18 months in is usually where the cycle peak is. So that is what makes the Bitcoin halving so important, is because it is the catalyst for a new Bitcoin cycle and new wealth to be generated. Speculators and investors alike are planning on this being the beginning of a massive incoming mooning event of the price. And we will see that occurring over the next 12 to 18 months, like I said. Again, that is why I'm so excited about this event taking place today. Bitcoin today stands at around $8,500 USD. This chart predicts that the peak of this cycle will land somewhere between $50,000 to $100,000 USD. You heard right. That is very likely mathematically. due to the conclusions we can pull from the past. The next 4-year cycle after that could bring prices of a single Bitcoin up to $1 million USD, somewhere in and around that sweet, sweet region of $1 million. Although we are coming from Canada today and we are doing a video talking about money, I will be presenting all prices to you in USD, as that is the common denominator of most nations that are following any kind of currency. We all trade into USD, right? So today, on this historical third Bitcoin halving, I am making this video to turn your way of thinking about money upside down on its head. Money to most people, and previously for myself, is something that I really didn't think about too much. It's just what it gets us, and how much we would like to have is really the extent of what I would think about money. For some people out there that are smarter and think about things long term, they save their money or they invest for a return. But again, that's the extent that most of us can comprehend, because we've only had the system that we have now in our lifetimes. We really take it for granted, and we don't really question what money is in its current state and how it came to be. In this video, I want to cover a whole new emerging asset class, digital currencies. Specifically, I'll be covering government fiat currency, which is money as we know it today, Bitcoin, and other cryptocurrencies like Ripple XRP. Without any further ado, let's get to the video. A very real and unfortunate reality that keeps millions financially impoverished is what we are being taught in the education system, or dare I say, the lack thereof. I mean, really, think back to grade school and high school. One of the most important aspects of our adult life and personal safety and well-being is our access to a healthy amount of cash. I don't know about you, but my education on the money system was devoid. I don't even remember learning a single thing about managing money, making money, investing money, or even more importantly, how the money system itself works. Could it be a coincidence, or do our politicians really want to ensure that we're just smart enough to work and create wealth for corporations while being unable to create any real wealth for ourselves? It's entirely likely that this is the case. If school is not educating you on money, and nor are your parents, if they aren't money savvy, then how are you supposed to know any better? This means that we, for the most part, have an entire society of people just winging it on money. This is a societal tragedy, in my opinion. As a collective, we are so disassociated with our money that all it is to us is a method of spending and earning. That's all it is, and nothing else to most. Something we don't put much thought to. If you never even blink an eye or take a thought to how our financial system works, that means that you have 90% Kool-Aid flowing through your veins. Like I said, money is something that we all take for granted and don't put much thought into. Consider yourself very lucky if you found this video today, or if you've never heard of Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, because I'm about to tell you all about it. Something dubbed by the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, is the unholy financial trinity. The Federal Reserve isn't a bank, it isn't the government, and it doesn't hold any real cash reserves. The Kool-Aid that we've all been forced to drink entails that we don't think about how money works. Trust the government, trust the banks, trust the corporations, go to school and work hard. Save your money and do the right thing, they say. The problem is how our money system works and how it incentivizes spending over saving. If you do save your money, it will deflate in value faster than interest can prop it up for a return on investment. Whilst the price of goods and commodities inflate, our dollar value and how far it can go for us is going to deflate over time. So really, above all else, it's about investing in yourself, specific skills that can make you money, and even more importantly, making your own business. I've said that in previous videos. That is the most important thing. Becoming an entrepreneur is a great thing in order to enrich yourself and the people around you. But what good will that do for you if you have no financial literacy? And that's what I want to help with in this video. Once you have the money, you have to figure out how to keep it. They say that's the hardest part. So in regards to learning financial literacy, and the way that we're deprived of the chance to become financially literate. We have this news-heavy society that pumps so much stuff into your head that it forms opinions without you even realizing it. And most importantly, it distracts you from the things that really matter, which force you to be better in life, such as financial literacy. It's your duty for you to serve and protect those around you that you care and love. And becoming more wealthy is the key to ensuring that security. Bitcoin equals the catalyst for the biggest technology disruptor of our era, and even more importantly, the biggest generational transfer of wealth we've ever seen. Truly, it's been such a long time since I've witnessed something that gets me this excited. And few times have I ever been this faithful to an ideology. I truly believe to my core that investing in crypto is going to be a once-in-a-generational lifetime opportunity. And depending on how much you put into it, it may change the very foundation of your life for not just you, but entire generations of your family thereafter. Please note that I am by no means a financial advisor, and you should not invest in cryptocurrencies just because I say so. Please do your own due diligence and research before investing into crypto. Always remember only to invest what you can afford to lose, because there is no guarantee in profits. So next, I'd like to tell you about my crypto story and how I got into the space. I'm still fairly new, only entering about 6 months ago. My relationship to crypto took off really out of nowhere in November 2019. I knew about Bitcoin for years, but I never really put more than 10 seconds worth of thought into it. I wanted to make more money, and I was super focused on that, but I wasn't educated on how to invest long term. Thus, there was no focus or self-education on investing. Ironically, I had an acquaintance I chat with at the gym tell me about crypto 6 months before I started my interest into the subject. And at the time, it was like my brain could not even limp an ounce of interest as to what he was trying to tell me about. I feel like this is how 90% of people feel when they hear about crypto, and it's no surprise. So after years of ignoring this crazy internet money that I really made no effort to try and understand, I came across a Netflix Vox documentary on crypto, and this is where my interest was piqued. The short documentary highlighted the fact that crypto is an unusually volatile asset compared to stocks, which means the price shocks up and down significantly from day to day or even from hour to hour. I thought this could be a great chance to attempt day trading and make a profit to pay down debts I had at the time. My primary issue as a freelancer has always been waiting on invoice balances, which means I constantly have to live off credit and wait for the big checks to come in to keep myself afloat. Essentially, this was perpetuating my own financial impoverishment because I was not doing enough jobs to make up for the interest and expenses while waiting on payments. So I thought to myself, what if I took out some money on credit and tried to day trade this stuff? So the more I researched and the more interested I became by the subject of crypto, I began to realize that gambling with credit on crypto was not the answer. Surprise, surprise. In fact, the answer was to invest as a long-term hodler, as we call it in the space. And this is because of the fundamentals I was starting to come across and how this technology was too strong to ignore any longer. I essentially began to have my light bulb moment. Ironically, the sun's peeking on my face like a light bulb. So the more I started to grasp what this technology was and what it meant, the more irrefutable the truth was that I needed to get myself in on this. And I'm hoping this video will spark your interest too. Crypto is absolutely a Pandora's box. Once you open it, you'll be forcibly unable to close it. Due to this dynamic today, I hold a fair-sized portfolio of tens of thousands of coins between Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, XLM Stellar Lumens, Basic Attention Token, Chainlink, and Tezos. I've always known that one cannot become wealthy only by the use of their man hours, because there's only so many hours in a day. One needs to use passive income routes in order to become wealthy and have financial security. Due to that, I think that crypto is a great plan B for me while I work on my career in plan A. Passive income will always make you money while you're busy doing other things or resting up. Crypto, like I said, is a great opportunity to make unbelievable returns in passive income. So the next section that I want to go over here that I've written out is a few basic financial terms for those of us that aren't that familiar. An asset, an item of ownership convertible in cash. Scarcity, the limited availability of a commodity, which may be in demand in the market. Scarcity creates value when a commodity is in high demand, pumping prices higher as there is not enough stock to meet demand. The opposite of scarcity is abundance. Crypto, derived from the word cryptography, the science and study of the techniques of secret writing, codes, cipher systems, encryption. We've all heard of encryption. Safe, secure, online mechanisms. Cryptocurrency, a decentralized monetary unit that's price is not dictated by any said individual or government. Remember that one. That is a big one. Bitcoin, the original permissionless peer-to-peer money platform. Altcoin, any coin that is not Bitcoin. Fiat currency, a centralized monetary unit that is typically tied to the value of gold. Today, due to political decisions of the past, central banknotes are no longer tied to gold in almost all countries, allowing central banks like the Federal Reserve in the United States to print out any amount of money needed in order to keep the economy robust, profitable, and afloat. Quantitative easing. Quantitative easing, or QE, is a monetary policy whereby central banks buy government bonds or other financial assets in order to inject money into the economy to expand economic activity. An unconventional form of monetary policy. It is usually used when inflation is very low or negative. The standard expansionary monetary policy has become ineffective. Quantitative easing is also the act of printing new money into the system. Money backed by nothing? Infinite QE is a recent term that has been dubbed during the virus era of 2020, in which the government is saying that there's no longer any limit on what they will print to save businesses and corporations too big to fail from going under. Isn't that interesting? Lastly, sub-zero interest rates, an economic driver made by governments and central banks which pushes bank account and loan interest rates lower in order to stimulate the economy and also to stimulate borrowing of money and spending. However, when short-term interest rates approach or reach zero, that means that you will actually lose money by putting money into your bank account. Same with loans. You actually basically get paid to take a loan. Very small amount, but good time to borrow. Europe is already going into sub-zero rates, and I would guarantee the US is going to have to follow suit, and Canada may very well as well. So next section, here are some gross stats of crypto that might tickle your fancy. These are specifically from the 2016 halving till now, the 2020 halving. The total possible supply of Bitcoin is 21 million. Most of them are expected to be mined by 2030. All will be mined by the 2140s. No need to fret though, as each Bitcoin is divisible by 100,000 Satoshis. This makes it a scarce asset, far less Bitcoin to supply 1 BTC to each of the world's millionaires. Think about that for a scarce asset. So here are the 2016 versus 2020 halving stats that prove growth in the market. Astronomical, if I may say. Monday, May 11th, 2020, today, is the date of the third halving, making this only the third time in Bitcoin's short history to have the BTC hash rate cut in half. So previous to this afternoon, every 10 minutes there would be 12.5 new Bitcoin mined by miners. As we speak now, for the next 4 years, that amount will be 6.25 new Bitcoin every 10 minutes, making the asset even more scarce. 1 year before the 2012 halving, Bitcoin's price was $2.55 USD. 1 year thereafter, $1,037 US. 1 year before the 2016 halving, BTC price was $268 USD. 1 year thereafter, 25.25 USD. And as we know, in 2017 was the biggest bull run we've seen, where it ran up to $20,000 US. Big profits, big percentage gains. 1 year before 2020 halving, BTC price is $7,100 USD. Question mark, 1 year after. My prediction 1 year after is $40,000 USD. That's not the peak. At the peak of this cycle that we are starting today, May 11th, 2020, I predict a top between $50,000 to $100,000 USD. And if you're here in Canada, boy, get ready for that conversion rate. In 2016, the halving day volume across Bitcoin was $1.7 billion moving through Bitcoin. Today, on average, we have per day $46 billion. Coinbase, one of many of the exchanges out there, my preferred exchange, their user base has expanded tenfold since the 2016 halving. In 2016, we had 600 Bitcoin ATMs worldwide. Today, we have 7,700. I don't know how many there are in my hometown of Niagara Falls, but I do know that there is one for fact, and that is on Lundy's Lane. In 2016, we had just short of 250,000 non-zero Bitcoin wallets. In 2020, we have 37.5 million non-zero Bitcoin wallets. Drastically, the amount of people holding some amount of Bitcoin other than zero has went up. The Bitcoin network in 2016's total hash rate was 1.5 million terahashes per second. Today, it is over 120 million terahashes per second in processing power. No other network on Earth uses this much processing power, making it the most secure computer network on planet Earth. In 2024, coming up on the 4th Bitcoin halving, I think that we will look back and say, why didn't we buy more Bitcoin? All right, in the next section that I think will help your understanding of Bitcoin and traditional currencies is the history of money and Bitcoin. Throughout history, there's been many different applications of money, from barter trade with cattle and other goods to uniquely cut rocks and gems, to the revolution of metallurgy, which is the first time we've seen society melting precious metals into coins of different denominations for use in trade. At the same time as the revolution of metallurgy, we did see people using bars of gold and silver as currency, and today that is still a widely popular hedge against the dollar. People use that when the dollar is not doing so well, and they move into gold and silver. And then when the dollar does go well, then they move back into the dollar, and they kind of switch back and forth. So ultimately, the final kind of stage that we've reached before the use of digital currencies is the national central bank note. And essentially, the whole idea with that is that coins and metals and whatnot are too heavy and too much of a hassle to move around. So banks, for our convenience, had created banknotes, and that was a more convenient way of carrying and moving around convenient money. So you can see almost anything can be a source of value, varying on where people put their value psychologically. So long as both parties agree to something's value, it can be used and traded as a form of money. I think that our idea of money is going to shift as a society heavily in the coming years as we see more and more of our current system and how it has deadly fundamental flaws. So with these different forms of money stated above, that brings us to the question of what makes a good money. How does society benefit from a good hard form of money? And what I mean by hard money is an asset that does not depreciate over time. It's more likely to appreciate. Let's start with time preference. Time preference I mentioned in my last video, and I mixed it up. So here's a proper definition of that. Time preference is your ability or inability to make financial decisions in regards to time. Low time preference sees one's abilities and their finances to look ahead into the future, saving and investing money to be better off in the future, while high time preference sees one's thinking only in the short term, not saving money and spending money on short-term pleasures for instant gratification. This is a big problem with our society these days. This hinders your ability to be well off in the future. When your money is inflating off the rails, your time preference skyrockets to time preference being high, leading to a lesser quality of life, less purchasing power, and it makes you less likely to save or invest. Also, it makes you less likely to pursue legacy projects and other things that benefit the community around you. Currently, we are seeing the middle class increasingly shrink because our money is deflating while goods and commodities continue to inflate. Wages are stagnant and our purchasing powers continue to shrink. We are seeing more and more wealth flow out of the middle class and into the pockets of the 1% ultra rich. Digital currencies could solve this issue. With better money that serves us as individuals in the society, we will be able to help others have peace of mind of our financial security and achieve financial freedom that we also badly need. Time preference is affected by whether or not we have sound money that will last us into the future. When we begin to think beyond our next meal, we will start to think about the future and what we need to do to secure it financially. Society as a whole will become better off, more prosperous, and this is a fact. Successful civilizations throughout history are always directly linked to a good, sound, hard money. Today in the world of investing and money in general, we most commonly see most people's store of value taking place in fiat currency, as well as gold and silver. More than ever, we are seeing more and more people flocking into Bitcoin and crypto because of the high potential benefits for being an early adopter of this technology. The best investments and currencies for return on investment potential are those that are scarce. We have seen gold used as a unique store of value for thousands of years due to the fact that its supply cannot be inflated. Humans tend to be unable to withstand the insatiable want to create more of what gives them wealth. This is why gold is great, because it is chemically pure and it cannot be recreated en masse in a lab setting. Thus, it can only come from the ground at a steady, limited supply. With that being the case, year over year, the supply of gold is predictable, and because of its scarcity as an asset, it can be predicted to continue to appreciate in value over time. This is where Bitcoin and gold have so much in common. They both run on predictable supply schedules, and thus we can draw more reasonable predictions as to where their dollar value will go in the future. It is important to note that the most commonly used form of money today is a central banknote, like I stated earlier, aka cash. Cash is king, they say. This form of money was historically used before the 1900s, but started to become normalized and widespread during the era of world wars in Europe. Banknotes were back to gold value and were revolutionary due to the ease of transport of cash. Precious metals and coins were hard to move around in mass, and banknotes solved that issue. Post-World War II, international governments came together to decide on a world reserve currency so that all currencies could trade against it, simplifying the world financial system. That currency will go on to this day to be the US dollar due to the United States' newly reigned superpower status. The real problem came about in the 1970s when USD became tied to nothing but the promise of value and high demand for international trading. The global reserve currency, USD, was untied from gold in 1971 during an event called the Nixon Shock. What happened in this event was the sitting president of the United States at the time, Richard Nixon, decided to unilaterally cancel the direct international convertibility of US fiat into gold. Today, the Federal Reserve holds all right to print infinite amounts of USD as a tool of economic stimulus. The key negative side effect of this practice is that USD can become as infinitely abundant as the Federal Reserve wants, eliminating the value of the dollar because it is no longer a scarce asset. Thus, with all that said, the modern era of money came along and the birth of Bitcoin came to fruition. The world in small amounts began to shift from what was known as the gold standard into what we now called digital gold. Bitcoin is essentially nothing more than a decentralized computer script created by the one and only Satoshi Nakamoto. This was in the world post-recession of 2008. Bitcoin set out to make a fair way for peer-to-peer payments to take place without any need for any third-person approval, i.e. banks. Divisible by a denomination of 100,000 Satoshis per 1 Bitcoin, making it possible to own small fractions of Bitcoin for accessibility to smaller holders. Bitcoin is easy to move, anti-inflammatory, as well as predictable, with an unbreakable supply schedule and a secure ledger technology ensuring that all nodes on the network have to come to a consensus before any transaction is approved. To this, the allure of Bitcoin lives on, more relevant as ever as this disruption technology that becomes more and more widely used across the world. Bitcoin offers high volatility for day trading, but over the decades will become more and more stable as a long-term store of value investment. What may be the most interesting charm of Bitcoin itself is the fact that nobody really knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. Whether he is a man, a woman, or a group of people will be left as a mystery in history until otherwise known. Satoshi was very smart for remaining anonymous, as it is very likely that governments would have went after him for creating such a disruptive technology to their way of doing business and their way of flowing money. Satoshi is kind of like the sacrificial goat who has taken a great risk to open the door for society to develop the ability to move into the decentralized world of digital finance and move away from the infinitely printed government fiat. After Bitcoin began to create its own popularity, hundreds of additional cryptocurrencies have followed, some great and some not so great. It's important to do your research into what crypto is intended to be used for and for what application, where are the pros and cons, and figure those out before investing into each. All cryptos in good standing come with a white paper from developers carefully outlining its goal and functions. If a crypto does not have an official white paper, steer clear of it. Next topic is Bitcoin fundamentals. So what are the real core fundamentals of Bitcoin as a decentralized currency? How does it really work? I'm here to bring you the basic fundamentals. Essentially, Bitcoin is an open, free computer program intended for anyone to use. Most importantly, Bitcoin is a permissionless protocol, allowing individuals to send money to each other without a third-party validation from banks or intermediaries. The program is run on high-powered computer units, or nodes, as they also may be referred to. Each node is constantly running a high-difficulty math equation in order to gain a block reward. Block rewards contain a new, unique binary string of numbers, which is what a Bitcoin is at its barest form. It's a unique string of numbers. These computers also verify all network transactions using something called the Bitcoin ledger. The ledger is a massive document made up of blockchains, which are information packets carrying transaction details to and from different accounts. Each computer node on the system must agree as a majority on every single transaction being added to the ledger. Once all nodes have done the math equations required to approve or disapprove a transaction, the new blockchain is added permanently into the ledger. The ledger goes on and on as a transactional document that can be viewed worldwide. Because the ledger never goes away, it's actually possible to track all transactions on Bitcoin ever made. This adds an element of transparency as well as a level of anonymity, as one can only know who sent or received Bitcoin if they know that individual's wallet code specifically. Bitcoin was really able to take off with early tech adopters in its first few years because of the lack of competition to mine new block rewards, which is free Bitcoin. And you were able to do that on lower powered computers. Today, Bitcoin mining is so competitive that only professional level miners with state-of-the-art computing systems can be successful in receiving these blockchain rewards. Bitcoin is the most secure network in the world due to the sheer astronomical numbers of the worldwide participants running mining nodes. One way to hack Bitcoin is the 51% attack. This refers to one entity or individual amassing enough nodes in order to make up 50% of all nodes in the network. The attack refers to the 51% of all nodes agreeing on a faulty transaction. This is nearly statistically impossible due to the cost of individual mining rigs and energy costs. The only thing that could destroy Bitcoin, in my opinion, is either a solar flare or a worldwide EMP detonation, which in my opinion would destroy society as a whole anyways. Essentially, the only way to take out Bitcoin is to take out the internet as a whole. So what determines price of Bitcoin? Daily volume running through different coins on exchanges and the difference between buy side bulls or sell side bear pressure. When either side applies more pressure than the other, the price will reflect that by depreciating or appreciating. Other factors determining price also includes the electricity and hardware costs of mining Bitcoin, and also importantly, general price speculation. So what we are about to see due to these hard fundamentals is the greatest generational wealth transfer of all time from old school investors to new millennial and smart investors. We are also seeing less and less of us holding deflationary cash and moving into hard appreciating assets like Bitcoin or gold. Sending money without third-party intermediaries on a distributed ledger connected across the entire world network to create an accurate and efficient blockchain is the future that is already here now. Bitcoin is the greatest tech disruptor of all time because it automates with our trust and it functions as central banks already do without the need for them. Maintaining money supplies, reaching consensus for account values, facilitating international money flows, restoration of property rates of money, a currency where inflation doesn't destroy our monetary value like fiat does. And lastly, the rules of Bitcoin never change. It is transparent, whereas the rules of banks are not. And international policy are always changing. Bitcoin does not. It is programmed to do a certain thing by default. Bitcoin by nature is an asset of manufactured scarcity, and that is the most important reason why this technology that is still in its infancy is here to stay. So here are my two top picks for crypto: Bitcoin and Ripple XRP. So here's the difference. Bitcoin is more of a store of value. XRP is more of a retail cash solution. The great ledger system of Bitcoin is what holds it back from massive retail use. Because all nodes have to approve a transaction on the ledger, that can mean that it can take up to 3 to 10 minutes to confirm a Bitcoin transaction, meaning that it's too slow for everyday retail use. Bitcoin is likely to be the greatest store of value of all time due to its appreciative properties, but is very unlikely to be a retail solution in which we need to replace cash. That is where my second favorite crypto, XRP, comes into play. XRP, created by Ripple Labs, a software company in Silicon Valley, San Francisco. Ripple's goal was to create the fastest, most liquid form of money possible for use by businesses and corporations internationally. Imagine if money could move through the internet just like information. The average XRP transaction takes mere seconds to complete, just like our classic credit and debit systems, but even faster, giving it the competitive edge. XRP is being adopted by most major international banks and is just being talked about now by the US government, often in official government papers. Send it anywhere in the world for a fraction of the cost and the time of a bank wire. Bank wires cost 10% internationally and take up to a week to run course. This is extremely outdated and it's not convenient. There's a massive demand for fast liquid money in today's world, and being able to send any quantity anywhere in the world with XRP for less than a penny per transaction is extremely promising. With massive retail use and mass adoption, this could become a bridge asset between different fiat currencies and, dare I say, maybe even a new global reserve currency. However, some of the issues with XRP is far more abundant than BTC. XRP itself is decentralized, but the company that issues XRP, being Ripple, is not decentralized. They hold almost 40% of all XRP, and if they were to dump that all in the market at once, it would essentially destroy the value of XRP. Their promise is to not do that and only sell small amounts responsibly. So long as the creators of XRP at Ripple uphold their promises, I can see XRP as being one of the greatest performing assets in crypto of all time. To lead into my next topic, which is our current situation and our relationship with the economy and the virus crisis, is a statistic where XRP would have really come in handy. The U.S. Small Business Loan Program, amid the virus crisis in April 2020, sent out $349 billion to businesses large and small. Due to banking remittances and fees, the banks collected $10 billion from that transaction. $10 billion, which could have went into the pockets of those businesses in their dire need for some liquid cash. That never would have happened with crypto, and it definitely wouldn't have happened with XRP. So who really stands to make a profit here? So leading into one of the last topics here is our current situation. Today we've seen a very dark turn in the economy with the virus crisis, which has put millions worldwide out of work and essentially thrown a wrench into the cogs of the entire world financial system. In my opinion, it will take years for a traditional economic system like ours to recover from this, and many small businesses will never be seen to come back. This is a very sad time for the investor and the entrepreneur, as well as the individual blue and white collar folks. In my opinion, the U.S. Federal Reserve is printing their money's value into oblivion. Some are referring to this as helicopter money, seeing as the government is just dropping money wherever they can. The U.S. is printing so many trillions of dollars that we've lost count of how many trillions. It seems like every time I look into it, it's even more, just within the last 6 weeks. This is essentially to create the liquidity needed for spending and borrowing money to continue to ensure the economy doesn't come to an absolute standstill by which it cannot recover from. However, it massively deflates the everyday person's dollar over time, leading to extremely higher numbers of impoverished individuals in the society, the normal. With all of this infinite quantitative easing we are seeing, with astronomical amounts of money being printed, we will see many smart investors look to move out of traditional markets like stocks and bonds and use that money to invest into crypto. Already accumulatively, we are seeing crypto and Bitcoin recover far more than the stock market has since Black Thursday, which took place on the 12th of March 2020. This stock drop was the worst drop since 1987, which is a testament to the fear taking place worldwide about the virus. This fear is completely justified at that. We've seen the stock and crypto market plummet just as hard together at the same time. However, since then, crypto has fully recovered, but the traditional stock markets still have yet to recover in full. In fact, to put the cherry on top of the cake, all-time high records of volume were broken upon the Black Thursday crash event when billions invested into buying at the bottom of Bitcoin. This gave me an even more renewed sense of confidence in the market, even during the worst crash imaginable. So we know about the infinite printing of money and how it's no good for value. But what else led us to this rough spot? Well, our economy is so fragile to begin with. All it took was a needle like this, in this case the virus, in order to pop the bubble. Corporate plus individual micro sources are all financially over-leveraged. Big businesses saving nothing for a rainy day and instead doing stock buybacks, plus investing available cash rather than saving any cash reserves for an emergency. Stock buybacks supply value to investors and ups the price of stocks themselves in order for the stock owners to become richer. When there's no available cash ready for 1 to 6 months of an economy without an income, there's no way to pay employees, expenses, and debts. When everyone is running out of money and defaulting on debt, payments and the entire system suffers from a complete toxic shock. That's the macro issue. On the micro individual level, we see the highest levels of cheap credit borrowing of all time, but very many people are never able to repay their debts. We can thank again the lack of financial literacy in school for this as well as today's ever insatiable appetite for instant pleasure gratification. Many are living beyond their means on credit. A hyperbole of this is to the extreme of people that are living on credit just to perpetuate an online image, looking like a wealthy person online when they really don't have any real funds at all. The most unfortunate type of debt we are seeing now, that is certainly a bubble of its own that may pop at some point, is the commercialized school system. How much it costs to go to school. We are seeing hundreds of thousands of people borrowing money at a young age and not knowing any better when they go to school. Many do not end up getting the intended results and end up with a terrible amount of debt that they are now responsible for. Collectively, when hundreds of thousands cannot repay their loans, we get a bubble that is ready to pop. Lastly, in regards to our current situation, is likely the most interesting and will work in the future in tandem with current cryptocurrencies, and that is the inevitable change of the government banknotes. It will no longer just be physical, but also digital. We will soon see these currencies that we are going to call Fed coins. Fed coins run by traditional banks for each individual sovereign state. If you don't believe me, look into China's digital yen, which is in its infancy trials right now. Due to hyper-deflation of the dollar and this epidemic event of 2020, I believe that in order to compete, the United States will have to counter with their own digital USD coin. It has already been mentioned on paper by the US government in regards to potentially creating a USD Fed coin in order to deliver stimulus money to families across the US as quickly as possible. It was fairly optimistic on this happening, but they at the last minute decided not to take this route. Most interestingly, we will see in the future many digital Fed coins moving about. However, these will be used by citizens and local businesses. Countries will not want to cross and trade each other's digital Fed coins. And this is where we will see bridge assets being cryptocurrency. I could definitely see XRP filling in the void here. Going forward, we will really see the prices of cryptos go astronomically high when this news cycle kicks off with the start today, being the Bitcoin halving. More and more retail investing, which is people like you and I and businesses alike investing in this new currency technology for the long term and for short term use. As people begin to realize the value of these currencies, we will see the prices reach previously unimaginable highs. Remember, Bitcoin started out at a value of less than a penny. All right, guys, now that I've given you my 2 Satoshis, I'd like to apologize for any rushed tone at the end of the video there, or midway. It's been nearly impossible to finish this video with the storage on my phone. So I'd like to leave you with 2 book recommendations. The first being The Bitcoin Standard by Saifuddin and Moose. I had to write that down because it's hard to pronounce. This book is like 80% history of money. It doesn't even talk about Bitcoin till the end. And it really ties things together and how the history of our economic system came to be. Another one is Crypto Assets by Chris Berninsky and Jack Tatar. This is another good one, more focused on modern traditional markets and where Bitcoin comes in to flush in between the two. Think of this for your future, and this is where things are going to be going. Your future with digital currencies will look something like this. Bitcoin is going to be your savings account and your store of value, your anti-inflammatory store of value. Altcoins, think of that as your international checking account. Send money anywhere in the world or receive it quickly and securely. And lastly, Fed coins. That's like your local checking account. You can use it between businesses or peer-to-peer in your country. But again, altcoins and Fed coins can be used for retail purposes anywhere you like. So as a collective, if we begin to take our financial destiny into our own hands and begin to hold and trade these currencies, their value and utility abilities will be guaranteed to go up. For Christmas 2019, I gave everyone cash towards investing in XRP in my family. Now I have numerous friends and family members invested into the currencies as well as Bitcoin. And I even have a grandfather that has entrusted me to run some investments through crypto as well. If I were to make an analogy, I would like to compare myself to the apostles of Jesus Christ, carrying the good word of Satoshi's decentralized currency alternative to the masses through this video. Although I just compared myself to the followers of Christ, can't say that without laughing, please be sure to note that I am not comparing myself to a financial advisor. Please do your own due diligence before purchasing any digital currencies and not because I told you to. If you are thinking about how much money to invest, remember that there is no exact number to invest. You can invest what amount is right for you and what you can afford and what your goals are for that investment. Ultimately, like anything else, you should never invest more than you can afford to lose. That is very important right there. So ladies and gentlemen, to wrap this video, if you've done your research and you decide that it's a good idea, I would say my call to action for you would be to invest $100 into crypto ASAP. It will grow exponentially more than it would in your savings account with bank interest. And who knows, in 5 to 10 years, it could be worth an incredible amount of money for $100. It's investing in your financial well-being and beneficial to the growth of society if we all do it collectively. I challenge you to spread the word and put your faith in this cause and prepare to witness the greatest generational wealth transfer of all time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and most importantly, share this video with your friends, loved ones, and acquaintances to spread the word of this phenomenon so that we can fill our pockets together. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching another episode of ZFK Talks. Can't wait to talk to you next time, and can't wait to take these sunglasses off. Peace.